Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to review an Alfred Hitchcock movie. I have not really done a review of one of his movies in a while. I think the last one I did was like in 2021 when I reviewed like Family Plot or maybe The Man Who Knew Too Much, the original. So it's been a while. Like, we did the Hitchcock month in like 2018 or something. Like that's a long time ago, kind of. And I just randomly decided to watch this movie, and yeah. So I'm here today to review Marnie. And I know that this movie is a Hitchcock movie, and so it should be really good. But, yeah. I don't even know where to begin because, like, I didn't like the most of the movie, honestly. Like, it starts off really, really good. Like, this is going to be a classic Hitchcock movie. And then it goes on for like 30 to 40 minutes where you think, wow, this is really, really good. You know, you have this classic suspenseful sequence where she's, this main character, Marnie, she's robbing this building, this business that she works at. And it's a really good suspenseful sequence. It's just classic, all the things that you would expect from him, all the camera shots that he likes to use, the classic thing where at the beginning of the movie she's got dark hair and then she washes all the dye out and she's really blonde, because he's got to have the blonde woman as his main character all the time. And I just really love that sequence, and I was really loving this movie and thinking, wow, this is going to be one of the best movies that he's ever made, because maybe it's just going to increase and increase and get more intense and more intense with this character who, basically what this woman does is she joins up at a business and gives them fake details and a fake social security card and all this stuff. And then she robs them, and then she leaves town. And at the beginning of the movie, she robbed this place where Sean Connery's character worked at, or I guess he just kind of floats around all over the place. And he remembers what she looked like, and so she goes to this other town and works at another business, and he is there. And he recognizes her right off the bat, and it's kind of like, oh shit, like he's going to catch her, and she's going to have to escape him, and, while she's continuing to rob businesses and stuff like that, it's going to be really intense, back and forth between them, action-packed, suspense-packed, and then she goes through the robbery, and all that stuff was really, really good. But then the movie takes a weird turn. It takes a turn that can only be described as slimy and gross. Because it's sort of like a sequence where you think like this would be a really good something else, but it wouldn't be a good movie. Especially because it doesn't really end in a very satisfying way either. So he ends up catching her after she robs the business again, and he blackmails her into marrying him and being with him in exchange for keeping her out of trouble and keeping her away from prison. And so, yeah, I mean, when you think about that, that is like a role-playing fantasy. That's not a movie, like that's something like where, oh, hey, I caught you stealing. I saw you. You stole that pencil in that aisle. I'm going to have to take you in the back room, and we're going to have to work something out. Like, this movie's like a role play scenario. And so I was thinking, like, why is this a movie? Because, like, it's not going to go anywhere interesting unless she has to escape him and maybe steal from him and fuck him over by the end. And so, like, what is going on here? And the movie turned from being like a Hitchcock movie into being like an intensive character study, where you just have these two characters. You have really creepy Sean Connery, and you have really childish and immature Tippi Hedren, and it's just the back and forth between them. And I gotta say, too, like, I saw The Birds as a kid. I haven't seen it since, actually. I remember liking it a lot as a kid, though. But Tippi Hedren, like, she is, like, one of the worst leads out of any of Hitchcock's actresses. Because, like, she has, like, the body of a woman, but she's got, like, the face of a child. Like, it's really weird. It's like a child's face was deep faked onto an adult woman's body. Like, it's really strange. And the way that she talks, too, she's very childish and immature, and so it's really kind of creepy, this character. Like, just her alone is creepy, because, like, she just doesn't look real. She looks like a cartoon. She looks like a character of some kind that somebody drew or animated. She doesn't even look like a real person. It's like you take the face of a child and put it on an adult woman. It's really, really weird. And then you have Sean Connery. Wow. You know, I've only ever seen him in one other movie, and I know that this is going to make people get really upset and probably comment that I don't know what I'm talking about, which is laughable, and then whenever they do that, but I've only ever seen him in League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. And I saw that as a kid in theaters, I believe. I think I liked it, and then we got the DVD too, but I don't like it anymore. That's a piece of shit. But, like, I haven't seen him in anything else. But, like, I don't even know if I want to see him in anything else anymore after this movie, because he was so bad in this movie. He was so creepy and so gross and so, like, just awful. Awful, awful, awful. I don't know if I could ever watch a Sean Connery movie without thinking about this character. Because, like, he did such a good job of playing this role. It was, like, unbelievable. It was so hard to watch his character. Because, like, the whole movie, you know, Hitchcock movies always give you that stomach ache feeling, which is a good thing. You know, that means that they're a good suspense movie, or a good movie in general, like Psycho, Lifeboat, Frenzy, Rope, Vertigo. Not The Man Who Knew Too Much, though, that's for sure. They give you a stomachache feeling. You know, they make you really nervous and upset. And this movie gives you a different kind of feeling, where instead of getting like a stomachache, you get like this feeling that like you're being like oppressed, and that you're being like controlled and manipulated, and you get this feeling like somebody's like watching over you. It's a really uncomfortable feeling that I got from watching this movie. Like, just the whole movie, it's like you're being suffocated, and you can't escape this little closet that you're in. Like, it was such a terrible experience, this movie, because at a certain point, you question, why doesn't this bitch do anything to get away? Like, why doesn't she just run away or something? Like, why doesn't she do anything? And, you know, she is damaged, and that's another kind of theme that goes on in the movie, is that she is like a damaged woman, and she has this trauma from being a child and witnessing something horrible happening, or maybe doing something else with it. And so she has this problem with colors, in particular, like the color red. And seeing the color red makes her freak out and have these episodes. But, like, I was really hoping that, like, she would get away or something, but, like, I knew that she wasn't. And so it was just such an awful experience. It reminds me of, like, what if they made a movie about, like, arranged marriages? You know, like something like that, where, like, you have a 12-year-old girl, and it's like, here's your new husband. He's in his 30s, and he's ready for love. It's like, that's what this movie's like. It's like watching, like, an arranged marriage take place. And so, like, it's so disturbing, too, because, like, he rapes her, and then she tries to kill herself, and it's like, this is a really fucked up Hitchcock movie. Like, this is probably... It might be, like, the second most, or maybe the first most fucked up movie that he's ever made. And, it doesn't get any better. It just keeps on being like that the whole time. You're introduced to these other characters of his father and then his sister-in-law, and she's like a weird kind of side character who doesn't like Marnie, and so she causes problems. And then the dad doesn't really figure into the story very much, though. And as I said, it's just kind of a back and forth character study. You have this really controlling, evil man who's, like, taking advantage of this woman. And then you have this woman who's, like, really immature and childish and messed up in the head. And... Like, I'm glad, though, that they made this movie, because I just feel like you could never make this movie nowadays. Because if you made this movie nowadays, people would be complaining that it's not an empowering movie for women. But, like, this is effective, in my opinion, it being, like, a good feminist movie, actually. Because it gives you enough of a feeling to where, like, it's just so much better at conveying, like, feminist messages than, like, the movie that we just watched yesterday, the Black Christmas remake, or basically any other feminist movie that's ever been made. Because, I mean, you know, it was like this at that time period for a lot of people. Not everyone, though. But you had relationships like this, and there was this general feeling, I guess, of, like, this controlling. Of, like, even the sister-in-law character, they talk about, like, oh, we should have made you do this, and we should have made you do that. And you know, like, just this complete, like, an utter, like, total control of everything. And it's just, like, really uncomfortable. And then it gets to the end. And the ending was probably the most disappointing part, because the way that it builds up, it actually starts to get good. And it starts to get to the point where Marnie, she has a big episode where she's on a fox hunt, and then she freaks out because she sees red, and then she crashes her horse and hurts it, and she has to kill it. And so at that point, she gets this gun. And then she goes back home, and she steals one of Sean Connery's keys. And then she goes back to the business again to steal the money again. And I was thinking, like, wow, this is going to be really, really intense and awesome, where she, after all that she's been through, she's going to finally commit this last heist, and then she's going to escape, and then maybe have to kill Sean Connery, or maybe Sean Connery will kill her. But no. What happens is he just comes over, because he's like, oh, you thought you could do that? I already figured out you could do that. And that's another thing with this movie. Every single thing that Marnie thinks of doing, Sean Connery's character already thought that she was going to do that. And so he anticipates her every move. It's really, really creepy. And so he just takes her, and he puts the money back, or he says, well, it's actually your money anyway because we're married. It's just, it's horrible. And so the final sequence is like is the best part of the movie, but it's also the worst part because it's kind of a letdown. Like after this whole movie, this evil character like taking advantage of this awful woman, nothing really with that happens except for he takes her back to her childhood home, and then they uncover what really happened to her as a child, which her mom was a prostitute, and it was really a traumatic situation where there was like a storm, and the guy that she was sleeping with, who was played by Bruce Dern, which was kind of funny, he came out to comfort her, and then the mom got really upset at that, and they started fighting, and then they started attacking each other, and Marnie had to help kill this guy with her mom. And so that is why she is so screwed up in the head. But then after that, what happens? Like after this amazing revelation and this really incredibly acted sequence, what happens? Well, she just says,
I don't want to go to prison. I'll just stay with you. I want to be with you.
And Sean Connery's like, ehehehehe. And then he shoves her off in the car and drives away with her. And it's like, it's a happily ever after for this fucked up couple that should have never been a couple. And it's a really, really upsetting and unsatisfying ending. Because there's also layers to it. Just the fact that, like, Sean Connery is the person who triggered her childhood memories to come back, and the fact that he's also her husband and everything, and there's so many different layers with that whole thing. It's a very layered movie. It's a very well thought out movie. One of the things I did like, since I know that I am kind of negative towards the movie, because it's not one of his best. It's nowhere near being like Psycho level or Frenzy level. I mean, come on. Or Rope level. This is probably like one of the lesser movies of his that I've seen. Like it's near the bottom. But one of the things that I did like was the fact that usually in these movies, if they made a movie like this nowadays, you know, they would be presenting this pretty boy character as like a really good person deep down. And they would be presenting it as though that like they're really good together because he's a pretty guy and she's a pretty girl. And, you know, pretty guys and pretty girls have to always be together. But it's really presented in this movie as though it's like he is a really evil, just horrible, horrible person. And she should not be with him at all. And so what I really loved about the movie was like the subversion of that, of like typically nowadays, you know, you just see these couples and it's always pretty boy guy, pretty girly girl, pretty boy guy, pretty girly girl. And it's just so irritating and so unrealistic and not just not good and not believable, and just like I don't want to see that over and over again. Like I want to see stuff that's different. Like I want to see tall girls with short guys, and I want to see tall guys with short girls. I want to see older guys with younger girls and older girls with younger guys. Like, I don't just want to see the same thing over and over and over and over again. So, like, whenever they show these stupid-ass movies nowadays, where you have, like, the new pretty boy in Hollywood with the new pretty girl in Hollywood, you know what I do? I ignore that movie's existence. Because I'm sick of seeing it, honestly. Like, out of all the things that I criticized about Barbie, honestly, even though Ken and Barbie are supposed to be together, because, I mean, that's how it is, I kind of like the fact that, like, you know, they subverted that, too. And they're not together, and I think that's good. Like, but have her get with someone else. But no, they wouldn't do that. So I really like the fact that in this movie, like, it is just the total opposite of, like, every other movie that comes out, especially in that time period, kind of, and, you know, just anything that Hitchcock would do, too. Like, you think about Jimmy Stewart has got to be with Grace Kelly, because they're two pretty people. And then, in Rope, you know, the pretty boy guy who gets killed at the beginning, he was with that pretty girly girl. And so, like, I really like the fact that this movie subverts that, because, like, I don't know, like, what the deal is with Hitchcock in real life. I mean, after watching this movie, I am a little more concerned about his behavior than I was before I saw it, but I'm just really not sure, though, like, if Hitchcock personally thought that Sean Connery was a villain, because on another level, it also kind of seems like he's taking the stance that Sean Connery is helping her. Like, this brilliant man is helping this woman by getting her out of trouble and keeping her out of prison, and he's protecting her, and he's keeping her from harm's way, and he's doing all these things to help her, but he's really just, like, abusing her. And so, like, I really don't know. And so that's kind of part of the problem for me, is, like, it's almost like a fetish movie. Like, because it just feels like a role play scenario. It's just really weird to see it played out. Like, this is what would happen if you got, like, a porno with this same type of scenario, and then you just played it out and turned it into, like, a full movie, and then have whatever happens happen. Like, it's very strange. It feels so anti-Hitchcock, except for, like, the first 30 to 40 minutes. So, I'm really conflicted about it, honestly. I feel like, on one hand, it had some really ingenious moments. I mean, the last 10 minutes, like, was just like, bam. It hit you really hard. But there's this whole middle part where it's just like drowning in a sea of despair. And, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on here, Hitchcock? What are you doing? Like, I would actually kind of like to see, like, a behind-the-scenes making-of movie about this movie. Like, or just maybe, like, a special features, like, documentary or something. Because, like, instead of making a movie about the making of Psycho, you know, make a movie about the making of Marnie. Because, like, it does raise a lot of troubling questions. Like, it would be the same thing as, like, if somebody accused me of being a cannibal, and I was like, no, I'm not a cannibal. I don't believe in eating people. And then I made, like, a whole movie where it's like, people, good. We should be eating people. Yum, 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 yum. It's like, it's the same type of thing where, like, after watching this movie, I'm kind of weirded out, actually, by Hitchcock's movies in general. Because there's so many other movies where he's clearly presenting it as though it's like these people are bad and they're evil and what they're doing to these women is wrong. But in this movie, it actually feels like what he's doing is the good thing to do. Like, out of all the things that could have happened to her, this is the best scenario that she could have ended up with. And so that's why I really think that this is a good feminist movie. Like, this movie, and then, I don't want to think about feminist movies right now, but this is like one, and Stepford Wives, was kind of like pro-feminist and anti-feminist at the same time. But this is like, this is pretty bad. And for the review, I want to give it kind of like an out there review, a weird review for a weird movie. So there were some times as a teenager I would eat weird things for breakfast because I really don't like breakfast. except for like if I have something that's just the same thing every day and I'm really, really just consistent with it. Because I really don't like having breakfast and having to decide, like, because I keep on switching what I want, and I'm like, one day I want to have cereal, one day I want to have leftover food from dinner the other day before, and that would always happen all the time, and so I would never just eat like the same thing because I just hated breakfast so much. Like, because it's so hard to decide, like, do you want to eat something sweet or savory or both? Do you want to eat something that might give you stomach acid problems, which I have problems with that currently. And so sometimes I would eat ice cream for breakfast. And I would take out an ice cream container, put it in the microwave, and then just eat like ice cream, like kind of like, I don't know like how much, but like just eat it until I didn't want to eat it anymore, and then put it back. And it was a really stupid thing to do, but I mean, it was only because like I couldn't figure out like what I really wanted to eat for breakfast. And that's why I really like protein bars, because as soon as I started eating those, I was like completely set. I mean, that is the ultimate breakfast. Because another thing is breakfast, you got to worry about the calories, because like I prefer to have more calories at lunch and dinner. And if you had like a pancake breakfast, then, you know, they're all going to that. So I'm going to give this movie a chocolate chip cookie dough ice cream container for breakfast, because it feels wrong. The movie feels wrong to watch. It feels wrong to talk about, but in a good way too, because I really like the fact that this movie was allowed to be made. I mean, I think that there should be more movies like this nowadays. I think that there should be movies that make people uncomfortable, but at the same time, they're really, really good, because that's what good movies are like. They make you uncomfortable, but they make you really, really satisfied, because I was satisfied at the end, I guess. It just felt like the most anti-Hitchcock film that he's ever made, and so I was kind of disappointed, because like I'd like to watch like a full Hitchcock film and not watch this when it comes to him as a director. You know, like Family Plot was really, really good compared to what people said about it. And like that whole movie felt like a Hitchcock movie, you know, from beginning to end. But this movie felt like I don't know what it felt like. A confession? I don't know. It's really weird. So anyways, please like this video and comment and subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews like this. Goodbye everybody, see you soon.